Yo, happy New Year, Adam. Happy New Year, Chris, and everybody on stage. We are starting off the 2024 new year with a bang, talking about everything .sats, one of the oasis and frontiers in the Ordinals community, something that is still, I think, a little bit overlooked in terms of value, maybe a little bit mispriced, as I think a lot of people on the stage will say. But first, Adam, man, how was your New Year's? How are you feeling about 2024?
Never more bullish, bro. Honestly, never as far as the crypto space goes, never more bullish. Things are aligning for us globally. I see a lot of positive stuff on the political front. Doesn't look like Bitcoin's going to get banned. Doesn't look like crypto's going to get banned in the US. So I think that's huge. And it just we got a lot of tailwinds right now, which sets up nicely for some people in the space going to have a nice 2024, hopefully. Pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I feel like yesterday when I opened up my Twitter and started going through the timeline, it was just consistent bull posting. It was like Solana's going to $1 million. Node monkeys are going to $1 million, right? ETF is going to send everything giga send, and I think it's still like I was listening to a few spaces, and it was literally just all shill spaces yesterday. Just everyone just talking up every single chain possible.
It literally feels like we're like we're August 21 right now. And I don't know how we could have gotten here that quickly. From real bullish or bearish in November, even into December almost, to just a complete flip-flop so quickly. It could be one of these like false tops, where, who knows? I don't play these games, I'm not smart enough, and I don't think many people are smart enough to play those games. Just kind of ride it, see it for what it is. Feels super, super frothy, but been wrong before about that too, man. So who knows?
Yeah, Ordi, I think, just passed $90 at a new all-time high. So cool part here is no matter every high is always going to be a yearly high now. is the low in, I think, is the question. Chris, happy New Year, bro. How you feeling?
GM. Yo, happy New Year, everyone. And couldn't agree with Adam. I think that this is like one of the healthiest bull runs that we've kind of gotten ourselves into, with so much innovation happening on the Bitcoin front for the first time. So there's like some solid speculation, of course, but there's actually a lot of real things finally being built. So I think that's kind of the most exciting thing here, and outside as well. So,
yeah, you broke up there a little bit at the end, but yeah, I couldn't agree more. Also, everybody, make sure that you retweet the space, pin to the top, so everyone that can learn about .sats as we make our rounds. We got Dogfather on. Man, congrats to you. You had a lot of success. I'm really excited to see where you grow in 2024. Now moving to the community. First, I want to give a shout out and say hello to exo.sats, who helped me set this up. This is a space and conversation we've been wanting to have for a while. I was actually recently gifted Jake.sats from the man himself who runs Sats Domains, and told me to talk with XO to set it up. Adam is also a recent receiver of Adam.sats. So we are holding it down. I know the funny part, I'll give a funny story and then we'll kind of continue the conversation. I tried to buy Jake.sats. This had to be, I don't know, back in April. And I ended up buying the second version of it. But there was a bug on Ordinals wallet where it wasn't showing the difference. So I ended up spending like 0.05 Bitcoin on it and got completely wrecked. And then the Sats domain guy reached out to me and was like, I actually have the first one. And I was like, oh my God, what a small world. I've been trying to find this thing for forever. And so cool story to come. But XO, man, how are you feeling about .sats? And also thank you for setting this up and inviting some of the leaders to come and join us.
Hey, happy New Year. Hope you can hear me okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's awesome. Totally stoked to be on your show, man. It's an honor. I am super bullish about 2024 myself. It's looking really interesting. Year of the Dragon in Asia is coming up, I think, in February, and the sentiment, and I do feel that Sats has carved out kind of a really cool niche for itself, and hopefully we're going to take that past all that, and hopefully 2024 will be really huge. So very excited.
Yeah. Well, would you like to tell us a little bit about your role within the DotSats community and how you became involved as one of the, I guess, community leaders?
Yeah, of course. Basically, I started as just like a degen, really. I mean, my start in crypto was like a lot of people with ERC tokens a few years ago. I had the classic start with buying a token that rugged on me after my brother gave me the suggestion, but that's okay. He felt bad about it. Um, but basically, I kind of went into hibernation when the whole NFT market kind of went into bear mode. And then in February of 2023, I was following an artist named Wisby, and Wisby decided to drop a collection on ordinals, and I was like, "What the heck is that?" And it piqued my interest enough, and once I kind of jumped into the ordinals, having liked .eth names and ENS, I kind of was naturally drawn to naming systems. And so I was a little bit invested in BNS at the time. But then I heard about, or I saw this Twitter post for .sats, and I basically just was instantly attracted to the idea. Just the narrative of having a layer one Bitcoin name just instantly kind of resonated with me. So I was early, but then what happened, I guess, is this community started to form, and it was such an interesting process. It was just so diverse and not centralized, and I just thought, there needs to be some community leaders here, and I just basically volunteered myself. Nobody really asked, but I just kind of decided I was going to jump in, and I created a Twitter account, and yeah, I've been pretty consistently posting about Sats since I guess about April, and I've gotten to know the founder of .sats. Not obviously, he hasn't doxed to me yet, but I am working on that. But he's been great to work with, and so yeah, I would call myself a community leader. I'm definitely not on the technical side, super deep into it, but I understand. I've definitely learned a lot in the last year about how ordinals work and um, some of the advantages and disadvantages.
Can you give us a little bit, like, not a technical understanding, but just for people who are listening, because we run into this on ETH with some of these rediscovery of old naming systems like Lineage and Ether ID. It's kind of easy to create the name or a contract on Ethereum that would kind of hold these names, but the integration into wallets and websites and all this sort of thing, that actually becomes like the value add, right? So we all think of, ENS names. What people kind of somewhat don't realize is that there's this like history of people trying to build this, but what ENS was actually able to do was build out this like infrastructure and partner with wallet providers and stuff like this to honor kind of the naming system. Can you kind of give like a high level overview of what that looks like and kind of the .sats kind of plan to make that happen over, the coming months and years?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this has been my sort of absolute focus from the start. I think that the integration aspect and the infrastructure aspect of .sats is just absolutely essential. So I would say the big high level thing that the great thing that happened for .sats very early on was that Unisat wallet integrated basically a pointer system in their wallet. So very early, kind of I think even in spring, you could just type in you could type in send Bitcoin or ordinals using Unisat wallet by typing in a .sats address. And so I think that kind of is a perfect example of like the simplest use case you can have that is already working now and that I actually use fairly frequently. When it comes to, I think the bigger picture stuff, I look at things like app integrations and things like that. And I think that .sats, in some ways, yes, it's not a smart contract based system, which some people would call a significant weakness. But in some ways, the decentralized nature of it is kind of also a superpower. Basically, anybody can come in and say, okay, you've got this social consensus around what constitutes a valid .sats name. Perfect. They're on chain, so we can point to where they exist, and we can actually basically build with it today. And I think that's what we saw with some of the cool applications. I know I see Jeff. I see Stackatron in here. He worked on I believe it was a Zin, which is sort of like a Bitcoin based browser that I'll maybe let him speak about more about that later. But we've also got Philippe Servin in here, who worked on something similar and is still working on. And we have, I do want to mention as well that Unstoppable Domains are still at work on integrating .sats into their platform. And as I understand it, that's scheduled to happen in Q1 of 2024. So relatively soon. And we'd be looking at possibly a real explosion in use cases if that happens as well, simply because they have a lot of integrations already built in for their network. And
no, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Actually, I think if those guys want to raise their hands, love to have you guys up, to chat about it. I do think, the .sats have, like you said, well, first of all, it's Bitcoin, right? And that's huge. Plus the not that it doesn't expire. I can't tell you, like, that is such a bummer. And we know it, from Namecoin, right, Jake? It's like I was literally checking my puny codes today, scared they're going to expire, scared I'm going to lose them. We saw it with Ether ID, they expire. It creates and obviously ENS names expire too, which is a huge hassle. So like, you end up having to renew the thing for 20 years because you're terrified of losing it. Right. And all these sort of things. It's just like, it just makes it, it's just way better. Like, in my view, it's just way better the system of, true ownership where I own it and it can't get taken away from me. There's no expiration date on these things. I don't know. That's my belief. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, the reason why an expiration is there is to prevent squatting.
Sure.
In this case, it was a little bit different because there's a first is first kind of introduction where that doesn't really exist on any of the other naming services because there was a whole indexer, right? This was kind of like, people are just inscribing, .sats onto Bitcoin before an indexer was even created. So it was really kind of this just like wild, wild west where you didn't even know if this was going to turn into a protocol or not.
But of course, all those guys are squatters too, right? It's like the idea of squatters, you can't do away with it, right? It's like, it's just part of human nature.
You can mitigate it though by the integrity of the community. For example, right, some of the earliest inscribers of .sats I've seen are very open to giving .sats away, right? I'm a beneficiary of it. You're a beneficiary of it.
Yep.
Even much in the story I said in the very beginning, when I had bought the Jake.sats, which ended up being the second one, one of the community members actually gifted me a 3-digit. This was back in April when they were like, not as much valuable, but it's just showing like, that's the integrity of the community saying like, hey, we want to keep you around, that's unfortunate. And here's something that we can help, kind of alleviate that pain. So you don't leave because, anytime you buy something that's a quote unquote, a fake asset, it's always painful. It makes you just kind of leave the community no matter what it is, even if it has nothing to do with the underlying technology. It's just like that stain that you don't want to bear anymore.
For sure.
So, so far it seems like it's been pretty good. Maybe we'll cover squatters here in a second, but I do want to call on Jeff first, and then we'll go dog collar right after.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Yeah, just for background, I've been working on Bitcoin since 2018, mostly on the Stacks teams. So I was early there, and also have been sort of dabbling in Ordinals this year. built Zin, which Exo mentioned, which is kind of like a Bitcoin browser that exists completely on Bitcoin. It uses Sats names as URLs. And then also I launched Ord Games this summer, which you might remember, but ultimately did not really take off. But that was like a gaming infrastructure play basically on Ordinals. But I was going to finish or follow up on what you were talking about earlier, just like a few shout outs around Sats names integrations and sort of interesting things there. I think there's a long way to go with it, but it's also pretty impressive considering there's no centralized, VC backed company pushing this forward. It's like hard to understand how hard it is to sort of stand up a usable API and like just real products without that backing. And so I was just going to say, Unisat in the beginning, I think Exo mentioned that, was just like amazing. Like they just kind of instantly got what this thing is about and jumped in, and were, I think like days later they had it indexing, which is impressive. And then Ordiscan, I think also I think it's Tristan is his name, like amazing as well. And then Genie Data is actually also kind of an unsung hero here, and that's what we use for the data in Zin. And so I worked with them early on to basically get their indexer working and get their API returning the right stuff and all that kind of like iterative process as a builder. I'm like, this is what I need this API to do. And they did that out of the goodness of their hearts. They're bullish on all things ordinals. And I think they just did a ton of work for Sats Names community. So they're amazing as well. I'm probably missing a few other key people too. But I also would say, just for context, like the thing that's missing still, I think is sort of first-class integration from the best wallets. Like Unisat has it working, .sats in their wallet, and that's great. And then I think like the sort of blue chip wallet, Xverse is still holding out, and Leather as well. There might be a few others too, but
what do you think the hold up there?
Yeah, I know all about it because, like I said, I'm like a Stacks OG. I mean, so there's a name system in Stacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go into that too, because I want to know about. If you want to go a little deeper on that, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I've worked on it off and on for years, so it was one of the few things that has like continuity from the really early days in Stacks, and so that is very equivalent to ENS, like smart contract based system, but it's on an L2. That's one of the reasons I was sort of like keenly aware of how valuable .sats could become, or I just was bullish on it from the beginning because I recognized, I was like, ooh, this is like the same thesis, but people are going to argue it's like a better like tech stack for this, or maybe you could say like a better pure on Bitcoin solution. So that was kind of obvious from day one, I think. And yeah, so there's .btc names on Stacks, and there's a few other domains there as well. And so it's not directly competitive with .sats in like the namespace sense, but I think from like an infrastructure sense, right? They're sort of like, no, you should develop over here, and of course, there's a lot of folks kind of arguing, oh, this should be on Bitcoin proper, and I think that Xverse and Leather Wallet are both people I used to work with at Hero, and so I think they're sort of like they're sort of got one foot in the Stacks world and one foot in the Ordinals world. And they can't like roll out, support for .sats without that making like some kind of statement against, BNS, or saying,
yeah, well, I mean, how would it even look to roll it out? Like .btc on Stacks as opposed to .btc on, as an inscription. How would that even work, right?
I think in practical terms, they would say, this is all just kind of speculative. Like, I don't speak for them at all, but I'm just guessing they would say, okay, .btc is the Stacks version, the one that's been around, since whatever it was, 2016 or something. And we're just going to keep that forever. But like .sats and maybe some select few Ordinals domains, we will support that. And they would end up probably either building their own indexer or using Gina data, like I said. So they would just sort of, kind of like isolate it, I guess is one way to say it. That's how they kind of, like I said, to sort of make both camps happy, I guess.
Yeah, I know with like on Ordinals wallet as well, you can have, or they have .sats integrated to where you can just type in Jake.sats and send any asset to that wallet. Jeff, do you know, like technically, if that's difficult to do, or why maybe just speculate on maybe why some of these other marketplaces or wall providers haven't done that?
It's easy to do. I mean, yeah. So it's not that. It's more. I'd say that if anybody's not doing it, it's for some more kind of competitive community-ish reason, like what I was just describing with stacks, a sort of tension there. And then I think the other reason is just because I think like marketplaces are often just kind of chasing the most shiny object, and so DotSats was like sort of instantly massive back when there was only 200,000 ordinals transactions. It was like, whoa, this is like one of the first totally breakaway meta protocols that it was like 80% of all inscriptions for a few days. So it was a very big thing. But then I think it got quickly eclipsed by other super hot things like BRC20, et cetera. So I think that everybody recognizes that there's a there, that this is interesting and valuable, and it's it's like a phenomenon like lots of things on ordinals. But there's I think a few kind of like hotter things that are more top of mind. And so I think that those things just gobble up their integration resources. Yeah, I mean it's kind of the same thing with Ord games too. It's like everyone thought, oh yeah, this is really cool, but it was sort of like we were waiting to see how much it truly kind of like gripped the entire ordinals market, and then they kind of would decide how much they're gonna support it based on that. Like it's like Ord games was a cool idea, but it didn't quite like go supernova like Bitmap did, for instance. That's like a good comparison.
Yeah, that makes sense. Go ahead, Dogfather, and then we'll go to Servan after.
Hi, GM guys, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, with the set names, it's a bit complicated, I think. So we have a few other naming services as well. So I commented that. So we have the BTC, and with BTC we even have like a competitor who did not really care about the early history on BNS. So it's a bit like and then Unisat has their own naming system. So maybe some players really just want to wait a bit to see what is the real dominating standard. And it looks like Sats names at the moment, but maybe it's, as Jeff was saying, it's just not like the most pressing issue to do that. But I'm also very bullish on this new marketplace who's putting that in Q1 out. So that's we are in Q1. So don't paper hand your Sats names. I think it will be a big regret. And let's see whether this is the big push we are waiting for.
Well, Dogfather, you're also, a creator of a profile that uses a namespace .friends, but in a different light. When you market that, how do you tell your community, yeah, it's a .friends, but it's not, a particular namespace. This is used for something completely different. How do you go about that from a builder perspective?
Yeah, with the friends protocol, it's very different because it's considered a soulbound token that you don't sell, but you keep. And if you sell it and transfer it, it's not actually working anymore. So the indexer won't pick up anything. And we even highly, recommend to also put the primary SAT name into a comment section that we can basically combine both protocols, because the SAT names, they just have a very different application, and I think they work very well together. So for the Friends protocol's future, I think this is definitely no competition at all, but it's rather a very good complementary system where both protocols can very nicely work together because of the soulbound token nature of the Friends protocol, where you build your social network. Plus, if you want to dox yourself even a bit more, you can add your Sats name or your Twitter profile and the like, and that's actually where we think the future will be going. So more like integrating both, and rather than saying get the cool protocol or just do this, it's rather the opposite. I think they work very well together.
Yeah, for maybe people in the crowd, or if you're new to the space, the namespace on ordinals can be somewhat confusing because you have, .xbt, there's .pepe, there's .btc, .sats. Those are all, namespaces to use for identity. But then you go look and you see .bitmap, right? And you're like, well, this isn't a namespace. But it looks the same, but it's used to represent land. And this kind of goes down the board, right, with .friends, the soulbound tokens. So navigating it to a newcomer can be quite confusing. So just wanted to throw that out there. And if anyone has questions, feel free to come on stage. Go ahead, Servan. And then we'll go to GM right after.
Hey guys, how you doing? Thanks for having me and thanks for the invitation. XO. So first of all, great shout out to Jeff, Godfather, and XO. These three guys were pretty much great guidance once I jumped almost full time to this topic called decentralized identities. But yeah, something to add up to this conversation is that another way to use those sats and the future of decentralized identities, I think, is related with personal websites or like a ways to pretty much link all your blockchain activity into one domain. And some kind of the biggest changes in the paradigm is, in fact, watching these domains or kind of approaching these domains totally different from what we know from Web2. I think Web2, we have something like 200 million domains. Most of them pretty much linked with a business or an entity that wants to represent their presence on internet. But related with Web3 domains or this .sats movement, the whole thing is going more personal. So the .sats domains not only represent these companies, but pretty much they represent our identity, right? Like in a personal level. And then we have a little more than 8 billion people in the planet. I think around 4 billion connected to internet. So the potential is way bigger. And then also the usage is totally different. And I discovered this when I inscribed the first HTML website with JavaScript using recursion. And that's why I got kind of viral and started meeting all of these people. And finally, that ended up me in Argentina presenting in the Bitcoin conference some kind of Chrome extension to navigate all of these domains. Quite similar to the stuff that Jeff is doing with Zing, but in this case, just a different version. Instead of going to a website, you go to a Chrome extension, because I think in the future we're gonna navigate or browse more decentralized identities and websites. But yeah, thanks a lot to all the effort you're doing in the community, guys.
Yeah, good job, guys. Yeah, any type of web extension are always quite useful. I use a handful of them, especially on Twitter. Go ahead, GM.
GM guys. Yeah, I just wanna say, Yen actually owns his sats name, so he has inscribed his sats name. Yeah, let me check. Yeah, that this is like the lead developer of Xverse. I've asked multiple times if sats is going to be integrated, and they will. They want to, but they've been saying this for like half a year or something. So I think Jeff surely has a good take on it. I also don't think it should be big of a problem to just integrate it, but there's maybe some other stuff going on to prevent that. Also, Elizabeth Holson also has her .sats name. So I asked her recently, when are you going to use your sats name? And she also said, first we have to integrate it. So I do think it will come, but yeah, I think it will come late. I think it will come like later than unstoppable domains, like integrating .sats, because that's planned for this quarter of this year. Let me get the link to that to that announcement.
Yeah, Unstoppable is a big one. They recently came out and said that they just want to support every type of domain. I even think they're trying to get into the .com and some of the Web2 domains as well. So
yeah, so this is this was major bullish news, and the .sats names have been trading like a bit higher and a bit more frequently since then. but it has never, you know, acquired that adoption that like BSC20 had. The funny thing is, you know, the BSC20 is based on like the on the SNS protocol, like it's like almost the exact same JSON. But yeah, they made like shit coins about it.
I can't remember during Ordinals early days, the .sats hit first, right? And then the BRC20s hit. Is that how it?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, .sats came out on February 22nd, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it was Redphone Crypto. I don't know if you follow his account, but he was the one who kind of, I think, first kind of put the idea on Twitter about the concept of using like the same structure of a JSON text inscription for fungible tokens. And I believe, maybe don't quote me on that, but I believe that it was through Sats and this statement from Redphone Crypto that Domo got the inspiration for BRC20. And BRC20 was released, I think it was March 8th, if I'm not mistaken. And Ordi was inscribed to the deployer was on March 8th. And then, everything kind of just went ballistic from there. But Sats was sort of the original inspiration, which I think is an interesting historical aspect to it.
And then in what relation did .sats come before or after Bitcoin punks? Because they also utilized the first is first. I'm just placing the timeline of which one came first.
Yeah, that's a good point. Bitcoin punks came first. So if you want to be absolutely sort of pure about what, you know, which project on Ordinals had the first idea to have this first is first concept, then you would have to attribute that to the punks. But I do think that kind of the unique aspect of Sats was just that it was a text inscription, and you were this kind of set it out in a different zone, I would say. Not better or worse, just different.
Yeah, I mean, it makes complete lot of sense. I do want to say hello to ex-CEO, who also is a creator of the Dick Butt, man. How have you been, man? It's been a while since I've seen you. Also,
yeah, man, I took a break, man. I was, learning saxophone, playing saxophone, putting out an album, sound art. I'm also like an instrumentalist, so making music requires me to focus, and it's one of my passions. Actually, I just sold a bunch of BRC20s and bought a brand new tenor saxophone, so I'm pretty excited. But coming to Sats names, man, just wanted to say, actually, that's what got me into this whole Ordinals and Bitcoin. Because, when I saw that, you could inscribe names on a Bitcoin via Ordinals, I was like, I'm going to get WEF, World Economic Forum, because I was just wanting to go that you own nothing and be happy stuff. And I thought, I'm going to own this one and I'm not going to sell it, But fast forward, of course, we've seen like BRC20 take off in terms of market capitalization, huge. Bitmaps. I didn't even know Bitmap was like mooning right now. I almost fell out of my chair, bro. Like, whoa, I got so much Bitcoin now. Like, whoa, this is wild stuff, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because I was just making music, the past 2 months, I just needed like, okay, I need a break from Ordinals, So who knows, man? Maybe next year or this year, hopefully this year, with the spot Bitcoin ETF stuff going, there's going to be maybe a lot of liquidity, and maybe folks are going to feel a lot more, because there's a lot of people spending money. Money is changing hands constantly on Ordinals. I don't know if you've tried listing your stuff enough. Like sometimes I list stuff within 60 seconds, boom, sold, so I think people are kind of really bullish, and I think such names, they have to see their day, because they were early, man. This was before, like some of you said, before Domo. Actually, this is what inspired Domo.
do we lose him?
I think we got rugged. Just leave.
Man.
Rejoin, man. We lost you.
Yeah, the doc.
And I'm still
Oh, there it is.
bullish.
Oh, you're back. You're back.
All All right. Well, XEO, tell us a little bit about Dick Butt. It is in the name space. You mentioned it's a troll, but take us through, deploying it and your experience of trying to build a community around a namespace protocol.
Yeah, well, so Inscription One, right, was inscribed by the legend. He's called, I can't pronounce his name, Ring Jando, but he's a good friend of mine on. I retweet a lot of his stuff, and so I just thought when I interviewed him, the guy who interviewed Inscription One, which is the Dick Butt, and I found out that he actually just wanted to troll Casey, because when Casey was working on Ordinals last year, nobody was using it, So when Casey refreshed the page, then there was a Dick Butt, So he was kind of trolling him, like, you know what I'm saying? So I thought, like, that's kind of like part of the history of the protocol itself, the Ordinals protocol. But I mean, Dick Butt itself, it's an internet meme going back to 2007. So I just thought, why not make fun with this, and we kickstarted this whole thing on Tap protocol with the token I've airdropped to a bunch of degens. And then the names also was just like a natural extension. Like, who wouldn't want a Dick Butt name, And then I think the guys from Ordinals Wallet came on board, and they supported us. So, but of course, we haven't seen a lot of liquidity and, buying and selling and so on. But still, the fact that it's there and it exists and there's infrastructure to support it in the marketplaces is there, I think is a good thing, you know what I mean? So it's the Ordinals meme that everyone knows about is Inscription One. So, we're just pushing the culture and having fun. It's about what Casey Rodomo said, keeping the fun back in Bitcoin, and I think that's what Dick Butt is. It's fun.
I have to interrupt here because speaking of fun, this is going to make your day, Jake. Gordon Goner just tweeted out a mooncat and said,
Did he?
Meow. Yeah, man. We got him, baby. We got him. So awesome. So yeah,
they're gonna pump now.
You can finally sell those heavy mooncat bags.
I do want to dive a little bit into kind of market talk, right? So everyone who's been listening, we talk about the history and some builders who are using the different variety of namespaces. But what are people actually gobbling up right now? Is it something similar to ENS where it's just 3 digits and 4 digits? Is there something native to .sats that is finding, mimetic value? X, I'll present to you as maybe you have a little bit more of a pulse on it. Could you just take us through kind of
That's a tough question, man. Can you rephrase that question again?
It's just what are people buying? What are the .sats that are selling?
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
Should I go ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been sort of following the market trends pretty closely. So after you're done, I'll definitely chime in. But go ahead.
Okay, my perspective maybe it's a little bit old because this space moves very fast. Because I told you, I was doing music stuff, and I was not really checking Ordinals. But I think my personal take on it, and I could be wrong, is that there's been a lot of excitement, for instance, with because attention economy, right? You can only focus on so much at the expense of something else. So I think there was a lot of stuff happening with the bitmaps. There was a lot of stuff happening with the BRC20s and maybe some other PFPs. So, and also those projects maybe managed to bring more liquidity into. I know people who are inscribing just like myself, like bitmaps at 80 cents a piece, and now they're with the, in insane amounts, right? So it's like maybe for some people that return on investment, they can see it on some of the other projects, not quite as yet. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm still very bullish on such names, but I think that day is coming. And when that happens, like what we see happening with Bitmap, what we see happening with some of the BRC20s, when that happens, I think there's going to be a gold rush for the such names. So I hope this year is going to be the year, where we're going to see some of the floor price going up and stuff like that. That's my take. I don't know. Other thoughts are welcome.
Thank you. Exo, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree with some of what you were saying there, XEO. I just think that we've already seen actually some pretty bullish price movement on some areas of Sats names. So if you go back about 3 months, somebody had, I guess, inscribed a lot of 3-digit names, and three digits, and I guess they just started selling them for pretty cheap. So they were dumping them onto the market, and so people were picking up 3 digits for sometimes under $100. And there were also several 2-letter names as well. And so this is something that maybe people who are new to it may not know, but like in ENS, you don't have anything less than 3 letters. But on Sats, you have the possibility, and really any of these ordinals-based protocols, you have the ability to do 1 and 2 letters and 1 and 2 digits. And so these have definitely seen sort of a premium commanded for them. So you've got only 676 2-letter names out there, and obviously only 1,000 3-digit names. And those are the 2 clubs I would say that have seen the most liquidity. We've seen actually the price of the 3 digits has jumped from, like I said, around $100 a few months ago. The floor price is now about $1,500. So there's been a lot of sales of 3 digits, tons, I would say, huge liquidity on those. Same goes for the 2-letter, maybe to a slightly less degree, but lots of liquidity for 2 letters as well. And on top of that, we've seen some of the other clubs starting to get action. So started to see obviously digits. So as you go down, like a lot of 100K, 10K club sales, those have been selling really well in the sort of $200 to $300 range. Lots of those. Like if I was to just hazard a guess, we've had probably multiple Bitcoins in volume in the last few months, just in like digits. And then, of course, we have some amazing grails that have sold. So I think it was I can't remember if it was 0 or if it was 8.sats, but one of those sold for like a full Bitcoin. And it was sort of like, I would say, a really bullish signal for sats.
Yeah, it was 888.sats that sold for nearly 1 Bitcoin, and also I believe 0 point sats also. And I gotta correct you a little bit, Exo.
Please go ahead.
The 2-letter sats names are actually higher in floor price right now than the 3 digits. They are the floor is $1,700, so that's $200 more than the 3 digits.
That's awesome. Yeah,
It's a great
I'm
correction.
glad I have XO. So there we go.
You know, when you look at .eths, right, it's been around since 2017. So now going into its, I guess, 7th year in its history, it really didn't find any kind of like really breakout market activity until the digits, until the whole digits craze. And then that value then trickled over to these different types of weird random communities. Some of them probably all went to 0. Some of them really have, some length, but, obviously first names and last names are generally always going to be popular. Digits. Is there anything else that you see in .sats that's maybe different from .eth in terms of market trends, or maybe just general interest that is relative to just the Bitcoin community, or is it still a little bit too early to say?
I mean, I think you have, each chain is going to have their own cultural memes that are going to be more valued and prized on each chain, I guess. So, you got your Satoshi.eth is not going to be as valuable as Satoshi.sats, in my humble opinion. Mm-hmm. But we've got also, I would say, just the fact that you can also have single-digit emojis. I kind of, if I was to put something on my radar for the future, I think those have a lot of possibility, because I know that emojis on .eth have been tremendously popular. And I think people will be drawn to having single emojis on, or even double emojis on .sats as well. But yeah, the trends they're very similar. And when people ask me, how do you value names, or how do you appraise the price of a name, I often say, well, we have this amazing gift of 3 years of history with .eth that you can go and research and study. And like you said, Jake, like first names are always going to be popular. Last names will be popular. And I think that as we're still so early in the Ordinals ecosystem. I think if we see anything like what happened in the Ethereum ecosystem happen, there will be this sort of land rush to get, or I guess land rush is not the right word, but there will be a lot of demand for those things, like we're already seeing. And the Sats team, well, there's no real team, but if you can call us a team, we're trying to do a little bit of focus on trying to get people's names that in the community, like for yourself, Jake, and we have a few other in the pipeline that we're sort of working on. It's kind of hard when you're trying to dig into some of these wallets that haven't had any activity for 6 or 8 months, and you're trying to track down who owns these wallets. But it is doable, and that's kind of the beauty of the blockchain is you can always do a little research, and you can often find people on Twitter who are either rocking a PFP that you can identify for a wallet or whatever. And so we're kind of engaged in that process right now to try and get people their names.
It's a good strategy. I mean, you think about Vitalik and how important Vitalik was for using his ETH name, and how kind of that just became this like hallmark of like, oh, we're all in the same team, right? And I remember when I put my ETH name there, and how that kind of just identified you as part of this group. And so I think you're smart to go after people who are going to use it, and identify that way. And for bringing in new people, I think once you get Saylor to use his, then it's all over. It's game over, right? Like that's the holy grail.
That's the dream. That's the dream. let's see if we can get there. Yeah, I'm super excited. It's early in the morning for me, but I'm super excited about this whole thing. And like I said, I started off as a degen, but it just evolved into so much more than that for me. Like it's become a cultural kind of, it's just interesting to watch this culture develop. And I've completely embraced this sort of builder culture and community building. And I think one of the great things about Ordinals is it's kind of like a second chance for people to, be wiser, come to an ecosystem and learn some lessons. And so I think it's all kind of really exciting for me.
I see like Ron in the in the audience. Ron, if you want to come up, raise your hand. Love to have the ETH perspective on what you've seen in with the ETH addresses over the bull run, and it went crazy and comes down. Just it'd be cool to have you up here if you want to speak, man. Just raise your hand. Happy to have you up here.
or any .eth.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess I'll ask XO again. Do you see any .eth or .sol or any other namespace, I guess, community members coming in, or is it mostly just people in the Ordinals community just partaking to just grab their namespace?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess I think we kind of probably have a similar trend that the whole Ordinal space has had. There's been this sort of reluctance, I think I would say, on the side of a lot of people from Ethereum who are sort of more loyal to that chain. The funny thing is, like, I did a lot of trading on Ethereum myself, so I consider myself an ETH enjoyer. But I guess some people, maybe they're more committed and they're not as excited about coming into a new ecosystem. But that being said, like, we're building bridges for sure. I know there was a guy, Thread guy recently, or was it Thread guy? I can't remember. Yeah, he got gifted his name, I think, by one of our community members, and there was also another Matt Higgins. I think he got gifted his name. So we're seeing some interesting inroads, and I think that will increase, especially if we see things like node monkeys and like just go crazy. That's going to attract a lot of new eyeballs to this ecosystem. And I think we'll see 2024 be more of that. More,
Hey, what's up, Ron? Welcome to the stage.
Hey, thanks, man. Yeah, I think this is the first space I've listened into, but my feeling is, yeah, certainly you can look at the .eth and look at the trends, right? Look at what grails to buy. I mean, sequential numbers, 888s, all those lucky numbers. I mean, all that stuff, and the scarcity. I think it'll kind of follow those trends, and you can learn a lot what not to do because we minted a whole bunch of shit that we regret.
Wait, give us your top 3 things of what not to do.
Well, just people get on these stupid trends, right? Like they'll just come up with something like, I don't know, like just dumb shit. I mean, I would say stick to the first names, last names, good words. And I do think emojis is going to be huge. I mean, if you look at how many people use emojis, I mean, it's like a high percentage of all tweets and texts in the world use emojis. So I'm still super bullish on emojis. Of course, for those of you who don't know, we don't have 1 and 2s. Now we do have a few because of the puny code behind them, right? There is some single and double. Like, for example, you can have so in the ENS world, there basically is no 1 and 2 digits, right? And then the 3 digits are 640 a year. The 4 digits are 140 a year, and then everything else is 5. So everything from 5 digits on. So quad rockets is $5 a year. 5 rocket ship.eth would be literally $5 a year. But if you had 4, it would be 120, and if you had 3, it would be 640. So that's a big factor there. But I do think that, and there is some emojis that, because of the puny code behind them, you can have singles and doubles, and it falls within that. But yeah, I do think emojis is going to be big. Like if you had rocket or just any of those major emojis that people use, .sats, I think that's going to be a good thing. But yeah, we got into just all, with that bull run, we were just doing a lot of stuff. I would say most people let 90% of their bags go, even and didn't even want to pay the $5. So just don't go crazy and realize it's a long-term, all the guys that were in from day one and bidding on those early ones, they're all like, hey, this is a liability. It's not you can become an alligator and eat you. And I literally just spent in December, $20,000 getting more, doing my name, re-upping my name. And that was, and it sucked because I didn't get sleep for like 2 weeks because I was trying to get something under 30 gray. So yeah, just get the good stuff and realize it's a long-term. I don't know if you guys have any kind of monthly or not. If you don't, then you can get whatever you want, right? You just have the minting cost. But my theory overall is, if you like Bitcoin or Ordinals, you're going to want like a .sats or a .btc. If you like Solana, you're going to like a .sol. I mean, maybe there's one that, I do think the .eth will be big, because I think that a lot of people that don't know any different will just buy that, I do think that will potentially be a premium, but it just depends on where you're coming from. I mean, just like nobody's going to, I've invested in every layer 1 and every layer 2 that's come out in the last 7 years, because I feel like it's going to be, I don't know which one's ultimately going to be good. Probably the answer is they're all going to be interoperability. It's all going to be cross-chain. And I know that, our biggest marketplace is ens.vision. I know they bought vision.io. So my feeling is that they're going to be marketing, and it's so much better than like OpenSea or anything like that, because for name services, and I'm sure you can build it your own, but even if you don't go on there, it's definitely something to look at, because it's a lot more than just an NFT when you're looking at all the different, and they made the clubs and they made the search features and bulk listings and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm intrigued. It's like everything. There's so much crap to follow. Like when I see Adam and Jake and all these people involved with something like Ordinals and stuff, I know it's big. I just don't always have the time to, I don't own one Ordinal. I've recently jumped on the e-scription train and kind of been making up for lost ground there. But there's just so much. But I see certain people involved, and I know it's a big area. It's just hard to be. And I do this 18 hours a day. It's my full-time job, right? I
No,
run
man, you're absolutely right,
it's
bro.
still so hard to freaking know what the hell. And I know I'm missing stuff, man. And I listen to everything I can, but that's my take.
Yeah, I think eScription is actually like probably a good intermediary between Ethereum then going to Bitcoin Ordinals, because there's a lot of similarities between the both. So I agree with you too. There's way too many things to pay attention to this bull run. Adam and I were actually talking about this in a previous show that, now with, the maturation of multiple blockchain ecosystems, it's probably important to just pay attention to a few of them and really double down and focus there. Because if you spread yourself too thin, you'll never make it to the end of this bull run. You'll probably sell everything, or miss the timing.
Bro, you'll just forget everything with all the stupid wallets, bro. I'm like, do I have some dot sats? I think I might, but where are they? They're like lost in my 8,000 wallets. Like literally don't know where stuff is, man.
Hey, can I say something to Ron?
Yeah,
Ron, are you listening?
Yeah,
yeah.
If you make an Ordinals wallet like on Xverse and send me your Ordinals address, I'm ready to send you pumps.set.
Woo!
That's a really good name. I actually got it for sale for like 0.2 BTC. But I'm ready to send it to you, man. If you're gonna,
Bro, Ron, they want to bring the whales in, bro. Here you go, man.
I literally, I appreciate that. I literally do not own one other thing besides a .eth because I literally just don't have. I don't even know how to mint anything else. You know what I mean? No, it's and you know what? The one I like, I have this hashtag Ron. The Ronin chain has the .rons now, right? And I just have the hashtag because I own like 2,000 of them. And they're not even totally. I bought them before they even resolved because I knew they were going to. And even now, they're not fully resolving on all things. But I own like every country, every major city, every state, every good word in the hashtag. So that's kind of why I rock this. But I'd much rather have Ron. But their token is actually Ron, hashtag Ron. So I don't even own one of those. But no, I appreciate that. I'll try and figure it out, and I'll DM you if I don't. But
I'll hit you up with a DM, and I'm
okay. Appreciate it, man.
It's actually pretty easy, Ron. I think you'll find that the wallet infrastructure and stuff is it's very familiar. They've done an amazing job of building. You have your choice of a couple good wallets, and you'll find it pretty seamless. Very familiar.
I'll try it. One thing I wonder is, you look at the ENS team. I mean, they've got like, sometimes it pisses us off because they've got so much money, but I mean, they have serious devs working for years on this stuff. I'm wondering, and maybe everyone can just kind of copy what they're doing, but I wonder how robust these other TLDs can be, these Web3 TLDs can be without, 10 guys that are really good devs working on it full time. I mean, I don't know. That's just a question I have. Don't know. And I don't know that it'll matter. I mean, I think you can do the main things, a wallet address, an identity, and, but that is one question I have. I don't know how much, if everyone can just kind of see what they did and open source and kind of copy it, or is it going to be a disadvantage because I don't know, but they spend a lot of money or pay themselves a lot of money. I know that.
Yeah, we covered that at the beginning of the show, Ron, a little bit, because that was my first kind of question to it.
Okay, well, I'll listen back to the recording then. Absolutely.
Cool. I do want to call on Gary Palmer, who we have on stage, who's an ENS delegate and also the founder of Web3 Domains. I wanted to get your take on your interest in .sats and potentially if you think it has any staying power.
GM, everybody. Thanks for having me here. My name is Gary Palmer Jr. .eth. And I know some people here. Adam, how's it going? Good to see you.
Yeah,
and been listening in a little bit in and out. And this has been a very informative room. They're obviously, for people that know me, it's obvious that I have a huge interest in Web3 domains. I'm the founder of Web3domains.com. And I'm very interested, very involved with beyond Web3 domains. I'm interested and involved with Web3 identity, right? Because that's the real meta. And I would also say that's the real alpha, of the conversation that we haven't really touched upon yet. Hey guys, listen, I make enough enemies in the ENS space. I don't know if you know me, but I make enough enemies in the ENS space. I'm not here to make enemies. I'm here to make friends. 2024, I'm here about growing. It's us against the banks. It's not us against each other, right?
100%, bro. Preach.
Thank you. And so .sats, I've heard a lot of interesting things. There's some positive aspects about it. I believe there's some disadvantages, such as the no renewal. I think the no renewal. I used to think it was bad, but now I think it's an advantage. I think ENS has they're like first in, and like Ron said, they built a lot of infrastructure. And I don't know if you guys know or not, but like ENS protocol, two things. The first thing is that ENS protocol, it's not just the .eth, it's also every single ICANN TLD. All .coms, .io, .bot, whatever your website is, it's probably an ENS name. You can send and receive money via MetaMask. You could send money or NFTs through MetaMask to web3domains.com, COM, because every .com is a part of the ENS protocol. So when a wallet integrates ENS protocol, they're also integrating every single .com. And so that's a huge forward compatibility for all the banks and legacy systems that are moving in the space. And then the second thing, I'm not sure if you guys are aware or not, is the connection between ENS protocol and Chainlink, and the work that Chainlink is doing with the SWIFT system, with JP Morgan, with international banks around the world. JP Morgan, they have a copy of the Ethereum blockchain. It's called Onyx. The Onyx blockchain is a private blockchain for JP Morgan and their banks. And JP Morgan, they're teaching people about Ethereum. They're teaching people about Chainlink. They're teaching people to use their Onyx blockchain. And JP Morgan is teaching these, old school, legacy bankers that don't know anything about blockchain. JP Morgan is telling them about Web3 domains. JP Morgan is telling them about ENS, because JP Morgan is working with Chainlink, and Chainlink is integrated with ENS protocol. And if there is one takeaway that I wanted, if there's any developers or people in the SATS community listening, any biz dev people listening in the SATS community, the one big takeaway I want you to have is there's a EIP. It's called EIP 3668. It's the acronyms are CCIP. It stands for Cross-Chain Interoperability Protocol, CCIP, Cross-Chain Interoperability Protocol, 3668. And this is a protocol for cross-chain communication. This is a protocol that allows data to be communicated between any two blockchains, or a blockchain and a computer in your basement, or a blockchain and Amazon, or a blockchain and a Google Sheet. So the information can be cryptographically connected between different sources, and have like this trusted middleman protocol, which is being advanced by Chainlink. And how does this relate to .sats? The .sats people, I don't know if you heard of Handshake protocol, Web3 domains, but Handshake has done this. There's other Web3 domain protocols, because we already said everyone's going to have their own. I could see, Twitter can have their own naming system. They already have their own naming system where they buy and sell names, right? But Facebook isn't going to integrate Twitter names. And, maybe Facebook is going to sell Instagram names. They're not going to, integrate, Twitter, and vice versa. So we got to have these neutral systems, and everybody wants to have their naming service. Handshake has already done the thing I'm about to tell you. The .sats people, you guys can use CCIP read or CCIP, and you can make it so every single .sats domain name works in MetaMask. You can make it so every single .sats domain works with the ENS protocol. You could give yourself a huge, in my opinion, a huge competitive advantage to make yourself interoperable with Ethereum. Can you imagine if .sats was the bridge between Bitcoin and Ethereum? That would make Ethereum people interested in .sats, because they would know every .sats would work in MetaMask, it would work in OpenSea, it would work in Uniswap, because it would have that cross-chain interoperability. There's probably some advantages and disadvantages from every perspective. You got to like integrate with ENS. Maybe someone doesn't want to do that, but you would be bridging yourself into not just what MetaMask is doing and OpenSea is doing, but also to what Chainlink is doing. And then by extension, you'd be tapping into what JP Morgan is doing, right? Because this isn't about one being better than the other. This is about everybody being interconnected. And even if we were all friends, it doesn't matter if we're all friends or all enemies. There's going to be natural network effects. There's going to be something called things like Zipf's law, right? Distribution effects. And so the largest city in the world is the largest, and the second largest city in the world is half the size as the largest city, right? Like it's all these naming systems. We can't shut them down. We can't shut down .sats. They're all going to exist. And so when I think about it objectively, from a science perspective, a math perspective, a network perspective, so one of the monies is going to be the biggest money. One of the naming systems is going to be the biggest naming systems. One of the blockchains is going to be the biggest blockchain. And then the second one is probably going to be half the size, right? Give or take. I don't know. But .sats can be interoperable with ENS and all of Web3 with CCIP or CCIP read. So thanks for letting me go on about that. And I think there's room for everybody if we have similar ethos. We don't need to have similar tech. Like obviously we got to have like the bridging, like CCIP is the bridge. We don't got to have similar technology. We have to have a similar ethos. And the ethos that I have, the ethos that ENS has, I believe, if you read the Constitution, the ENS Constitution, is that we believe in self-sovereignty. We believe in open source. We believe that, everyone should have a name and that no one should be sort of shut out or have their name clawed back or anything like that. So if your ethos is open source and sovereign Web3, then let's get at it. There's a lot of opportunity right now. It's 2024. Let's go.
Gary, I see you have a 4 digits .eth name. Do you hold any ordinals currently?
Oh, man, I'm kind of like Ron. I just haven't got into ordinals or ascriptions and
not enough hours in the day, bro. Not enough hours in the day.
Okay. I will make it up to you. Exo.sat sent me a 4 digits sats name, like to a giveaway. I won it at that time. If you make an ordinals wallet and send me your Taproot address, I will gift you a 4 digits .sats names, and these are worth like $250 currently already. So take it or leave it.
There you go, Gary, man. It's easy, man. It's 5 minute setup, Xverse or Leather Wallet, both.
If who have
Unisat.
Or Unisat.
If Gary don't do it, I'll make the wallet. If Gary don't do it, I'll take it.
All right. So if somebody who I sort of already follow can DM me and tell me like how to do it. If I don't already follow you, nothing personal, but just somebody that
follow me so I can then DM you.
Yeah, I followed you, GM Sats. I followed you just now and all the hosts and everybody.
There you go. I love to see it. Gary, I did have one question for you. It was your take on renewal versus non-renewal. You said that before you were in the camp that you were against renewal, and now it seems like your mind has been changed. What is the reason and thought behind that?
Somebody owns Rose.sats. Let's pretend it's not you. Mm-hmm. And if they lose their keys or get hit by a bus and someone else, no one's ever going to be able to have Rose.sats again. Rose1.sats will never smell as sweet. So that's one part of it, is that when like you guys, like right now there's things happening, but I would encourage you to be building for the people who are going to be alive in 100 years. I would be encouraging you to build for your grandchildren, because if your grandchildren can't hunt down the wallet, like 90% of these wallets are going to be dead. People are going to like lose the keys or whatever. If your grandchildren can't hunt down the wallet, that's going to be rough on them. And what are they going to do? They're going to fork the whole network, or they're going to it's just going to be a little bit of a mess. You know what I mean? And so right now you guys are able to track each other down. We can all do that in ENS and Sats and everything. It's going to get progressively harder. And the names are going to get more scarce. It's going to be harder to find. And then there's no renewal fees. So like people that are smart in the game who won't lose their keys and know what they're doing, they're going to own the market. There's going to be very few sats whales in the future, and they're going to own the market. They're going to be able to charge whatever they want to charge, and there's no risk or cost of cost for them to do that, which might be fine. I mean, as someone said earlier, something about the integrity of the community. I mean, this is crypto. It's really easy for our communities to get infiltrated by bad actors. It's sort of like the name of the game. It's like Sybil attacks is like what we were born with.
And I'll throw in my 2 takes just from my internet days. So I helped set up about 1.5 million websites, right? And so many people came on with free web builders and all this stuff. If you didn't have some kind of monthly deal, you really couldn't keep up with all the APs and all the upgrades to your servers. I mean, I'm going back to like 93, right? So like pre-Amazon even. It's nice to have some kind of revenue model to be able to continue to improve on stuff. So I think that's kind of my take, why I like, and I like to see some kind of revenue for the devs and stuff to be able to eat and be able to literally be as robust as they need to keep up and integrate and all that kind of stuff. So to me, I always worry a little bit about. That's why I worry a little bit about Unstoppable, because I mean, I know they'll probably figure out a revenue model, but yeah, that's my take. Just seeing so many companies that set up so many websites that then couldn't support them and just shut down and no one had their websites. So that's just my take from way back in the early .com days.
Both valid points. Servant, what do you think?
I think exactly here is where I disagree, and where Bitcoin is in fact beautiful. Like the limitation of having 21 million Bitcoin, and some of the wallets in fact lost in space. It's this exact thing that makes Bitcoin more scarce, right? And I think it's going to happen something similar to the early sats domains. I think a lot of the 2 letters, 3 letters, and now 4 letters are going to be like difficult to get. And then I can predict like not even 5 years, 4 letters are going to be super difficult, not because of the valuation of each, but because a lot of them are going to be lost. And I think this scarcity is in fact something really different from the .eth mechanism. It's exactly what makes special the .sats. But on the other side, something that I really almost hate from the mechanism of .eth is this centralized system that is set to control how much is 1 letter or 2 letters, right? And then I need to worry about every single year or renewing my 6 letters name for the same amount of money. And pretty much it's not owning. I feel like I'm renting a domain, and it's totally different in .sats and all the SNS protocol, because finally I can own. Okay, you don't want to have a .sats? Guess what? You can create your .teapot, right? And then you can just start creating your community around that. But particularly here is where I think things are different.
Hey, can I provide some misinformation real quick? If I can, he said something that I can agree that, yeah, with ENS you're renting your name, but it's not centralized. It's controlled by a smart contract. It's algorithmically controlled. If anyone was going to raise the price, they can't just raise the price. It has to go through a DAO vote. There is a governance risk that everyone should be aware of a sort of like dark DAO votes, like someone doing a DAO governance proposal without anybody being aware of it. But people are in ENS are paying attention. I get automated updates whenever a proposal is created. If someone had enough tokens, Token DAO attacked the ENS DAO, said we're going to increase the prices to $1 million. And then they had enough tokens and they voted on it and nobody saw it, then it would still take 7 days before everything algorithmically happened. There's no single person that control everything. Everything is controlled 100% by a smart contract. So you are renting it, but it's not centralized.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey there. I was just going to say, it's interesting around this debate. It kind of ignores the fact that like actually doing a renewal system on ordinals would be kind of a mess. I mean, I wouldn't say it's impossible. It's just like there's no clear mechanism. And if you go back and like listen to a lot of the debates around SNS and the early stuff that was posted about it, you kind of see that it was sort of pitched as like a very elegant solution to the problem that worked within the constraints. Like it kind of only tries to do the things that ordinals are good at. And so with ordinals, really all you can do is say like the only thing you can actually enforce, like hard enforce, is UTXOs like can't move without the wallet owner, pushing them. And so you can't like, deactivate a name or like whatever. And if you could, since there's no smart contracts, if you could, it would just kind of infinitely fork. Like if you said, oh, well, the names aren't valid after a certain time, then any other indexer could kind of say, well, in our world they are, because we have some economic interest to basically not follow that soft rule. And so I think like BRC20, bitmaps, they all kind of look that way, less because I think it's a perfect solution to not have renewals. I mean, that's, I think, also attractive, but also like they're just like kind of they're odd because they work on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin has such a small kind of design layer or something like that. So that's like the way I think it works, and it works that way. And I think it's sort of like good in some ways, bad in others, and it's just a very unique Bitcoin way of doing this whole thing. So yeah.
It is interesting. I forget who was talking about earlier. There was the point about .sats being related to Bitcoin's hard cap of 21 million Bitcoin, and a lot of those, I think it's like 2 or 3 million of them are forever lost. Could even be more because a lot of those are in Satoshi's wallet. And then that could be the same case here with .sats because there's no expiration. Another layer on top of that, though, is it's essentially on Bitcoin and using ordinals. There's infinite amount of namespaces that could be created, right? You see some of these other, I won't call them forks, right? They're just other communities, whether it's .xbt or .pepe or .btc. This can just infinitely be created. And I do think over time, you'll eventually start seeing community ones, right? Like .frogs or .node monkeys or whatever the case is. So that is an interesting layer on top of ordinals that's related to just the general namespace that isn't particularly utilized on Ethereum. Yes, you could go and create all these different ones. I think there have been a handful of attempts to create a competitor to ENS, but here it seems a little bit more open on Bitcoin. And maybe that's why some of the value hasn't really trickled to .sats, is because there's still a lot of real exploration that's happening, and it's being used more for identity and kind of community relations, but it will eventually find value.
And then it gets into this, what Ron and Gary both pointed out. It's like, well, if you don't have this kind of monetary incentive on either a yearly or a renewal type of basis, where you have basically a team building out this infrastructure or making sure they work and all this sort of stuff, is it going to happen, and is it going to work? And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see over the next 5 years or so, if it really, if this model kind of works. It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, and something we talk about a lot, just in all of our ordinal spaces, is what is new to Bitcoin that has not been copied on all these other chains, right? For a while, right, BRC20 was kind of this spin-off of ERC20, or at least the name is, right? And kind of everything else. But here can .sats or the just .namespace introduce new things that aren't the same copy pasta as you see on these other chains. Maybe just essentially having infinite amount of namespaces is that, that utility that's native to Bitcoin. But yeah, it's still a little bit too early to tell. But .sats is obviously the clear winner. I think there's 430,000 registrations, it says, or at least that's what Magic Eden says. That I'm looking at right now, which is pretty wild. I mean, but there's still, like, I know .btc's around 50 or 60,000 registrations. I think then you get into the lower ones, like .xbt is, I think, maybe 10,000 or 20,000. So, and obviously most of the sales though are through .sats. What's up, 178.sats?
What's up, fam?
Good.
Oh man, I love this conversation, man. I think we all have to remember this is new. This Bitcoin, it's happening. We're adapting as it goes. I was just so blessed to be on the .eth last year and being able to capitalize on all these plays over here because I got to witness them all. If I win, I got 3 digits. I got 2 digits, a very big number. So I learned from my mistakes back then. But one thing that we have to remember is this: Magic Eden has been the biggest bridge for everyone. You could they have Solana, they have everything there. And we have to, I don't know if you guys know, Bored Ape Yacht Club are going this month, are going to be officially over here with their collab with Magic Eden. And with that integration, we're going to get more eyes over here. You know, Magic Eden already, I love it how they're, back then you couldn't take offers, now they're taking offers. You know, it's adapting, it's growing. And I think we all here need to understand that. Just go look at Magic Eden, who has the top holders. It's going to be .sats. .sats is the top holders right now of anything. So look, like you said, go look at the facts. And I just want to wish everybody here, man, a happy new year. I wish you guys the best in this year. You know, I hope that our world here where we live at, called planet Earth, it's better. No more wars, man. I really wish for that because all this money is nothing if we're just fighting. You know, but and I love this conversation. Keep on going, guys.
Yeah, appreciate that take. Go ahead, GM.
Yeah, I got to go to my chess club very soon. I want to close up with one .sats alpha. And that's also for you guys who hasn't been like inscribed anything on Ordinals yet. There's like 40% of the 5 digits .sats names still available to inscribe. So for like $50, you can inscribe 10, and you know who knows what they will be worth. You know, in a few years from now. I inscribed personally over 1,000 5-sats names, so I'm bullish. You know, on the digits. I haven't got much 4 digits, but I've got a lot of 5 digits, and these are still able to inscribe. So grab them while you can, man.
You're like Ron, big heavy bags, heavy bags, man.
Yeah, I do want to begin wrapping this up. This is a great start to the new year. A lot of refreshing takes, but also that it's been quite cooperative and seems like everyone really wants to build together. So Exo and Jeff and Ron and Gary and everyone who's been here on stage throughout this conversation, really appreciate all the takes. Bullish on .sats, bullish on namespaces. Adam, what's your final take on .sats as the owner of Adam.sats?
Well, I think like Gary said earlier, it's about identity and your digital identity. And, PFPs play an important role in that, no doubt. And our namespaces, ENS obviously kind of trailblazed there and laid it out that this is an important thing for us to have this kind of identity tied to our wallets. So, do we want it on Bitcoin? Obviously, right? And if .sats are the one that's going to kind of lead us there, I don't know how you can't be bullish on this. Like this in the last cycle, this is what we learned. It's PFPs, it's digital identities, it's tied to our wallet addresses. This has already kind of been decided. It's just a matter of, how this works going forward. It's really important.
Yeah, exciting times, to say the least. For those who don't know, we host this show Tuesday through Thursday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Tomorrow, this will have a special guest potentially. We'll announce that later today. Make sure you follow everyone on stage: Emblem, Vol, Adam, myself, Chris. We work at Emblem. Allowing NFTs to trade across chains. We have a lot of exciting things to come in the new year that we'll talk about one of the spaces. Again, appreciate everyone for coming on, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time.